Wow. All right, I guess we're live. I'm over here reading Bible verses that I had forgotten. How about that? Let's pull that one up. That one, it's interesting. And then we'll pay attention to some other stuff. This is Second Kings and Isaiah uh, recounting the same story. So verse 9. All right. And Isaiah had replied, "This will be a sign to you from the Lord that he will do what he has promised. Would you like the shadow to go forward 10 steps or back 10 steps?" And it is easy for the shadow to lengthen 10 steps, answered Hezekiah, but not for it to go back 10 steps. So Isaiah the prophet called out to the Lord, and he brought the shadow back the 10 steps it had descended on the stairway of Ahaz. You know, this is the second time that I'm aware of in Scripture where there's a reference to the sun. I mean, it doesn't say anything about the sun. I'm trying to find out, is there any way you could infer anything besides the sun here? Um, hmm, I don't think so. Hello, Shadow Mind.
Hey, what's going on? How's things? How's your week been?
It's been cooler than usual. This is the coolest birthday. This is my birthday eve. So today is not my
Nice.
birthday, but this is the coldest I've ever had it on my birthday season. Um, 66 today. The high tomorrow is 70. I don't think that I've ever had a birthday with a high of 70.
I
Um,
mean, hooray for global warming. It's perfect for your birthday.
yes, yeah, exactly. Um, it was almost 30 degrees warmer this time last year. So there you go. So, topic tonight, uh, something I always forget the title of my videos, something along the lines of "There's no darkness in him." Um, so I was looking up the word shadow, and because I was looking for some particular verses that I wanted to share, and I got distracted, which tends to happen with the Bible. Um, and I found this story in Second Kings and also in Isaiah 38. Verse 7. Verse 7. Okay, yep. Thank you. Isaiah clarifies my curiosity. There it is. Excellent.
As, as always, Isaiah and Ezra have the most amount of gravy in the Bible. So,
Well, there you go. So in Second Kings, it's not as clear as to, it doesn't literally say the sun, but in Isaiah it does. So here we go. I'll just read this because I read the other one already. And the word of the Lord came to Isaiah saying, "Go and tell Hezekiah, that this is what the Lord, the God of your father David, says. I have heard your prayer. I have seen your tears. Behold, I will add 15 years to your life. Whoa. And I will deliver you and this city from the hand of the king of Assyria. I will defend this city. This will be a sign to you from the Lord that he will do what he has promised. I will make the sun's shadow that falls on the stairway of Ahaz go back 10 steps. So the sunlight went back the 10 steps it had descended. Now, I think it is important to read both of these verses because, according to Second Kings, Hezekiah um, had an option to choose whether or not the shadow would proceed or retract the 10 steps. And he chose for it to go back because he was like, well, it's easy for the shadow to go forward. That's what would be natural. Um, but he chose backwards. So again, retrograde sun movement, which this is the second time in the Bible that it discusses this. I find it fascinating because I don't remember. I'm on these verses all the time, but this one I didn't remember. But Hezekiah um, and Isaiah, and this instance of where the sun, however much it needed to move to represent 10 stair steps, and what, who knows what those stairs looked like and how big they were and all that. But well, that could represent hours. That could represent 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hours potentially.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
I mean, depending on which direction the stairs were facing,
yeah, yeah,
it could have potentially gone the opposite direction of what the sun movement could be.
yeah. No, that
So
I
say they
think that's the
were
point.
yeah. So say they were north south facing instead of east west, and it descended down those stairs, or ascended, I guess would be the opposite of what it says there. Ascended up those stairs. That would be even more significant.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it literally in Isaiah it says, so the sunlight went back the 10 steps it had descended. So it is unquestionably referring to it reversing, which is just beautiful. Um, yeah,
Well, the sun and shadow are used a lot in symbology in the Bible as far as examples of things, right? And foretelling things, and I guess
yeah, which is
the
part of my
the
topic
current word would
tonight.
be
But
omen, yeah.
I would say that this is quite a literal um, event in that it was a sign for him, confirmation that God was going to do what he said he was going to do. Here's my sign. And he's like, oh, well, there you go. It happened. Maybe I misunderstood. You weren't suggesting that it was somehow symbolic of something, were you?
No, no, I was just making the correlation to
All
God
the
uses the sun.
Yeah,
God uses the sun in various ways to convey messages, or to how do I say that? Like when something significant happens, it usually involves something that the sun would not normally do.
yeah.
Like for instance, go out, or shadows would move the opposite direction, like in this example.
Mhm. Hey, shout out. Speaking of shout out to the kombucha guy that I sold kombucha SCOBY to 3 years ago. Okay, a little bit more than 3 years ago at this point. It's like 3 years and a couple of months. Okay, he randomly called me this week asking me questions about kombucha, and then we got on some wild tangents, um, unrelated to kombucha, and he made this suggestion or made me aware that he had been paying attention at least a little bit to my YouTube. So it goes back to the nature of me never knowing who's watching, and all the secret watchers that I have.
Right.
It's
Yes.
interesting, and shout out to that guy. I yeah. So maybe he'll join. I gave him the invite to the Discord, and maybe we'll get to have some good conversations. So
Nice.
um, so in him there is no shifting shadow is the particular verse I was looking for. Um, let's see here. For the law
Is
is
that
only a shadow of the good things to come. That's
yeah, that's Hebrews. Yeah.
yeah, nice verse. Um, our days are like a passing shadow. Our days on earth are but a shadow. There's the shadow of his wings that we ought to keep in mind. I feel like it's in James or something. Hmm.
Uh, it. I didn't have anything come up in James on the Dewey Range, but let me see if it's in the New Standard, the ASV or something, because sometimes translation can be a little bit
I
different.
think it's going to be this word shifting. Um, yeah, there it is. It is James.
Okay.
I memorized that book. Well, at least the first chapter once upon a time, and I can't help but remember some of it as a result of my efforts to memorize it. All right. Do not be deceived, my beloved brothers. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, with whom there is no change or shifting shadow. Why is this relevant? Um, or shadow of turning.
Yeah, mine says shadow of alteration.
Yeah. Why
Yeah.
is this relevant in him? There's darkness. Um, maybe I need to do the phrase no darkness. 82 verses with the phrase no darkness. Ah, I need exactly no darkness. Let me see if this works. Ah, here we go. Well, I mean, this is a good verse. There's no deep shadow, no utter darkness where evildoers can hide. This is important. This
Well, I
is
mean
go ahead.
that points right back to what James was saying, that all perfect gifts come from above, from the Father of lights. So therefore, you couldn't hide in shadow.
Exactly. And let me tell you the point that I'm getting to ahead of time. This is in contradiction or opposition to the yin yang concept that there is this that evil or good requires evil, and that there's this dichotomy between good and evil. In God, there is no darkness, there is no evil, and he doesn't require that, and the universe is not in balance with God in that regard. That is a false conceptualization. If you are filled here, Luke 11:36, a lamp shines its light on you. If you are filled with light, with no dark corners, then your whole life will be radiant as though a floodlight were filling. That's where it ends. 1 John 1, have heard from him and declare to you, God is light. In him there is no darkness at all. So this is the key verse of the night. Shadow as opposed to light, which means clear, undivided, without hypocrisy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, John was prophetic to say the least.
On which part?
Just all of it.
Wow.
Like John's probably one of my favorite. Like the complete John, not just the segmented John. It's probably one of my favorite books.
Yeah. No dark saying. His disciples say, Lo, now speakest thou plainly, and speakest no dark saying. Okay, so slightly unrelated verse. So let me go to this one here, go to this one, and I'll go to Job. I like Job. All right.
Yeah, Job's good story. Good lessons in Job.
Yeah. All right. So we will go to 1 John. This is the verse 5. 1 John 1:5. Not a very long chapter. And this is the message we have heard from him and announced to you. God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. If we say we have fellowship with him, yet walk in the darkness, we lie and do not practice the truth. But if we walk in the light, as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another. And the blood of Jesus, his son, cleanses us from all sin. So this concept of I'm starting to feel like I'm beating the dead horse. Um, why? What? I only feel that way because when I stream, I don't have very much opposition.
Right.
During the daytime, when I'm in the company of other people that very much oppose at times, not always, but very much oppose um, these sorts of things and oppose the Bible, oppose the gospel, whatever. It's a different story. So
Well, and I think this goes to a larger argument, and one of those arguments is always, well, and someone was saying this the other day, and I can't remember who it was, but I was listening to it. It's probably DTMB because he talks a little bit about this, and it's the atheist argument of, no, it was definitely Jim Bob that was saying it. The atheist argument that pain and suffering is evil, therefore God can't be all good, right?
yep.
And so this is a prime example of pain and suffering is not from God. It's a result of sin. It's a result of your turning from God, right? Not following His path and not hearkening to His will.
Yes. Further driven by the point of the consequences of for the first sins was pain and suffering as a consequence of violating God's one rule. So it's just kind of interesting how there is this I don't know if I would call it a religious ideology, but the scoffers, they have this do no harm um, facade of a moral foundation, and then yet disacknowledge or refuse to acknowledge the consequences of violating God's will and the origin story of those things. Um, so yeah, it's kind of interesting. And then the famous verses, um, which the church I go to is these verses are 1 John chapter 1 verses 8 through 10. We well, no, 8 and 9 really. We don't say verse 10, but definitely verses 8 and 9 we say like every Sunday. Um, if we say we have no sin, we deceive ourselves and the truth is not in us. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Um,
Isn't there another one in Ephesians that's fairly similar that usually gets recited weekly?
oh, maybe there is a parallel verse in Ephesians. I do not remember. I do not remember. If
I
you
don't remember either.
if you find it, feel free to share. So
Yeah. So it's Ephesians. It's
okay,
Ephesians 6 through Ephesians 1 6 through 8. Unto the praise of the glory of his grace, in which we hath graced us his beloved Son, in whom we have redemption through his blood, the remissions of sins, according to the riches of his grace, which hath superabounded in us all wisdom and prudence, that he might know unto us the mystery of his will, according to his good pleasure, which he hath purposed in him, in the dispensation of the fulfillment of time. So it's very similar.
yeah, I would agree. It is definitely the other verses that we quote, but I've definitely heard this being included in you could like do a benediction or something along those lines with. I mean, you can you can almost pick any verses from the Bible and use them
Yeah.
for a benediction. Um,
Yeah.
so, by the way, etymology, bene, good, diction, words,
Right.
benediction. Now, guess what else? Here's what's really going to blow somebody's mind. Maybe benediction, eulogy. They're pretty much synonyms.
Yeah.
Now
Well, I mean,
that
I
makes me
guess.
wonder, is one Latin and the other is Greek? Because I know eulogy is from the Greek, good, EU, and then
Right.
logi from logos for words. So I'm wondering if
Well,
benediction is Latin. It
the
is,
interesting thing is benedictions are usually done for the living, and eulogies are generally done for the dead.
sure, sure. But
So maybe that has something to do with the etymology of the word as far as its use goes, right, as a separation. But it could just very well be Greek versus Latin or something along those lines.
yeah, benediction is Latin, eulogy is Greek. Why one gets used for one and not the other, that I do not know.
Very interesting.
That I do not know. But it is, yeah.
My clickety typing.
Yeah, it's okay. It's ASMR for the channel, you know. It'll
Yeah.
boost my views. Not really.
Yeah. It's
I don't
not
have that
really.
kind of viewership. All right, 36. Scroll down to 36. La la la. All right. The lamp of the body, which this is apparently also found in Matthew. No one lights a lamp and puts it in a cellar or under a basket. Instead, he sets it on a stand so those who can enter, those who enter can see the light. Your eye is the lamp of your body. When your eyes are good, your whole body also is full of light. But when they are bad, your body is full of darkness. Be careful then that the light within you is not darkness. There's got to be some not tongue in cheek, but there's something there to that verse right there. Be careful then that the light within you is not darkness. Irony?
Well,
I don't know.
well, and it's I don't know. It's possibility. It's also mirrored in Luke 11:35 and 36.
So if your whole body is full of light with no part of it in darkness, you will
Right.
be radiant as though a lamp were shining on you. Now, how does one have good eyes? How can we make sense of this? Having good eyes. When your
Well,
eye is sound, there's a little reference here to Proverbs 22:9. We'll go there. What? Is this a bad reference?
when your eye is sound,
Yeah, and it took me to Proverbs 22:9, which, hold on, did I read that wrong? Proverbs 22:9. When your eye is sound, see Proverbs 22:9.
well, and it goes into he that is inclined to mercy shall be blessed, for of his bread he hath given to the poor. He that maketh presents shall purchase victory and honor, but he that carrieth away the souls of the receivers.
I mean, verse
But
12,
if you skip down to I was about to say if you skip down to verse 12,
the Lord's eyes keep watch over knowledge, but he frustrates the words of the faithless. I don't know. This is a weird, um, verse reference that doesn't seem to, I mean, it could be an error. It's just a verse reference. It's not like we're dealing with scripture here. I Proverbs. That's not going to help. What, good eye. Good eye is not the right phrase. What's the right phrase? Sound eye. All right, that's what we're going to look for. See if there's any reference to a sound eye. No, 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 no. Okay, here. Well, Matthew 6:22. If your eyes are sound, your whole body will be full. Okay, Luke, Mark, Matthew, Deuteronomy. Eye for eye. No, 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 no. My doctrine is sound, and I am pure in your sight. I am clean in thine eyes. Okay. Closer, but not close enough. God, of course, the blinded their eyes and hardened their hearts. These things are usually connected. That's good to see. Hmm. Hmm. Heart has become callous. They're hardly hear with their ears, and they have closed their eyes. Acts 28. But this Proverbs reference doesn't seem to be very well connected unless there's something being lost in translation literally. Weird. All right. Well, I don't want to spend too much time on a confusion thing.
It might require more fleshing out.
Yeah. But anyway, your eye is the lamp of your body. What an interesting concept. And see, I would say, how does the eye have anything to do with anything except as it correlates, like we just saw in the list, which is why that might have been good to be looking for that, how the eye correlates to the heart. And I wonder why that is. Um, when I think about the eye, I think about like the Ten Commandments and stuff like that, and jealousy and um, lust and whatever else that the eyes are part of. Um, the eyes usually represent or a conduit for the desires of our heart. Solomon definitely says that he withheld himself no pleasure that from anything that his eyes could see, or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing.
Right.
In the book of Ecclesiastes specifically, is what I'm referring to when it's towards the beginning. Um, the lamp of the body. There's a connection here that I really do have trouble, and I can't help but think I'm probably not the only one that has read this verse or these verses and gone, how can I apply this to my life? In what way can I if okay, God, these are your words. My eye is a lamp to my body. Okay, then how can I make sure that my eyes are good, God? Because you told me that my eye is a lamp for my body. So how can I make sure my eyes are good? That's a good question. I don't have an immediate answer to that one.
Well, and that it's in the New Testament connotes something of a spirit, right? Or containing the good of the spirit, right? I don't even know if that's a good answer, but if your eyes are a direct reflection of the condition of your heart, right? Someone who would be full of the Holy Spirit, or someone who would be walking in the way of Christ, would have an outward appearance that would be perceived as good by others, right? It would be radiant. That's kind of the way I read it.
The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are good, your whole body will be full of light. Here's what this reference. Also, Proverbs 22:9. A generous man will be blessed, for he shares his bread with the poor. Why that verse? Why that verse? Let's look at it. Let's where are we at? Where's the H? Here we go. All right. Oh, there you go. Lost in translation. How about that? It
Interesting.
doesn't happen very often, but this dynamic translation is yeah, that is interesting. That just doesn't happen that often. Um, you got to pull up the whole where's the Hebrew? I had it before, but now I've got to pull it up again. All right, we'll just click this Hebrew here, 22:9, who has a generous eye. He will be blessed, for he gives of his bread to the poor. And the way that they translate ayin, which is the Hebrew word for eye. By the way, I have been on a kick. Thank you, Fear. Yeah. I have been on a kick of swinging my metaphorical machete against people that are being a new religion that I've coined to identified and given a new coined term. It's called homophonism. Did I tell you about this?
No, because we discussed Hermeticism, but
Oh,
I have
okay.
a feeling it's along those same lines.
It's not. It may be, but not necessarily. Homophonism. Okay, homo same, phonism sound or phone sound, and then ism because it's a religion. And there's this growing religion of people that because a word, let's take SOLE, not the fish, but the bottom of your
Right.
shoe, they will take a word like the sole of your shoe and say, because grounding, which is a whole different topic, electrical grounding of your body with the ground, very new age. Oh, how dare you! Because your soles of your feet connect with the ground, it's related to soul, SOUL. This would be how the religion of homophonism gets perpetrated, propagated, whatever. And they do this with
Thi-
all sorts of words and
This
sounds.
must it must be a really low IQ thing, right? To just disregard that words have meaning even in translation from not English, right?
Yeah,
It's I'm fairly certain the root words of soul and soul are completely different in Latin and in Greek.
they
So
absolutely are. So there was a person that I was trying. I'm just trying. I was just trying to help this guy not be a fool. And he was saying that the word apology had Apollo in it. He was saying that hello had the word hell in it, and so on and so on and so on. Um, and yes, I did the etymology. I exposed his foolishness, and he doubled down. And what's sad is that this is the kind of person that would go to then another example, such as Sunday, and that one time they're actually right, okay? Because Sunday and Monday and Tuesday and all the days of the week actually do have connections to paganism and so on. But they take those and then they extrapolate this homophonism as a procedure and or method for interpreting all things. If it sounds like it, it probably has a spiritual or esoteric connection somehow, some way. What made me think of that? The Hebrew word I, ayin, right? Um,
right.
but this is not how language works. You may be right with the IQ thing. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I,
Right. I'm much more harsh than you are. It's fine.
I
It's occupational.
listen. I'll call people fools, but not mean to be insulting their capacity. I don't usually go to the capacity for knowledge insults unless somebody has demonstrated sometimes I think people are just stubborn,
Right.
but
Right. Well,
sometimes,
and blinded, as we have just discovered here in the last
amen,
couple
amen,
minutes, right?
amen.
They're just blinded. Their eyes are not the beacon of their soul.
Yeah. All right. He hath have. Oh, here's a KJV. Oh, of course, the KJV would have it right. Sorry. I, I,
Hilarious.
I'll go there sometimes. He
It's
he
fine.
that hath he that hath a bountiful eye shall be blessed, for he giveth of his bread to the poor. And yeah, these other translations, because and the word in like the NASB, which I like the NASB. I like the NASB. It translates bountiful eye to generous. Now, what's so I'm really glad that I kept on digging and looked at the original language and saw that the word I is here so that we could understand this from the perspective of the authors and not from our modern conceptualization of what we think about when we think about this organ known as our eye. See, when I think of the word eye, not to be punny there with I and I, but when I think of it as an organ of reception, something I use to receive only. But it stands to reason that according to the Hebrew conceptualization, that the eye isn't necessarily an exclusively receptive organ. It can also be associated with generosity. How interesting. How interesting. And it really does give, understanding this verse really does provide a better understanding of how the eye can be a lamp to our own body, because interestingly enough, I'll share a little, not a story per se, but an anecdote. Is this Fear? Hey, Fear, welcome. Uh, no, yes, okay. I'm just changing the way my screen looks there. Um, all right, so check this out. In my marriage, in my relationship with my wife, there have been moments in life where we use this metaphor. Uh, my wife uses this metaphor. Having big eyes, having big eyes, and I'm not sure if anybody else has ever used this expression, but what it means is, oh no, maybe you've heard it in this regards. You're at a restaurant and somebody might say your eyes are bigger than your stomach.
Right.
All right, so I think that that's kind of the correlation there. Um, there's an interesting modern English expression um, to continue to paint light or shine light on, no pun intended, but to help gain better understanding of this organ of the eyes. And when it correlates to generosity, the bountiful eye. He giveth of his bread to the poor. What we see in the world when we see need and we're giving, that frame of mind, that matter of the heart, your eyes, your awareness, your attention. I mean, I think that there's a lot of different ways to expound on what is being communicated and how it correlates to accomplishing.
Well, and is this verse speaking of spiritual bread or physical bread?
Oh, you're talking about
Yeah. The giving. Yeah,
Proverbs.
the giving. Yeah, the proverb. Yeah.
Well, poor. So who are the poor?
Well, and that's just it. Is it the poor of stature, or is it the poor of spirit?
Yeah, I mean, well, look at this. He that hath a bountiful eye, treasury of scripture knowledge. So here's some other, um, he that has pity on the poor lends to the Lord. Whoever stops his ears at the cry of the poor. If there be among you a poor man, okay. If I have withheld from the poor from their desire, blessed is he that considers the poor. He has dispersed, he is given to the poor. Cast your bread on the waters. I think it's talking, obviously, there's the poor in spirit and those sorts of things. I think that this is talking about. It could probably go both ways, but it seems to definitely be leaning.
Right. To altruism, to true altruism, not altruism for personal gain. Right.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
actual physical food and consideration of people's physical needs.
As for the eye and stuff, maybe look at the Matthew 20:15 about the parable of the laborers.
Whoop! Didn't mean to do that. Stop. Okay, Matthew. What chapter?
Chapter 20,
Okay.
and it's the parable of the laborers in the field, where the guy goes out and hires laborers at each part of the day, and then when he's paying them out at the very last verse, in verse 15, read what it says about the eye.
Okay, gotcha. Um, I'll just read this whole section. The
Yeah.
Bible is always good. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard. He agreed to pay them in a denarius for the day and sent them into his vineyard. About the third hour, he went out and saw others standing in the marketplace doing nothing. You also go into my vineyard, he said, and I will pay you whatever is right. So they went. He went out again about the sixth hour and the ninth hour and did the same thing. About the 11th hour, he went out and found still others standing around. Why have you been standing here all day long doing nothing? He asked. Because no one has hired us, they answered. So he told them, you also go into my vineyard. I'm tearing up on the inside. Um, not being facetious. This is interesting. When evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, call the workers and pay them their wages, starting with the last ones hired and moving on to the first. The workers who were hired about the 11th hour came and each received a denarius. So when the original workers came, they assumed they would receive more, but each of them also received a denarius. On receiving their pay, they began to grumble against the landowner. These men who were hired last worked only 1 hour, they said, and you have made them equal to us and have borne the burden and the scorching heat of the day. But he answered one of them, friend, I am not being unfair to you. Did you not agree with me on one denarius? Take your pay and go. I want to give this last man the same as I gave you. Do I not have the right to do as I please with what is mine? Or are you envious because I am generous? So the last will be first and the first will be last.
There are different translations where it doesn't say envious.
Okay.
I'm looking at the Greek
Maybe
interlinear, and
try,
it says, "Or the eye
maybe,
of you envious is because I am generous," and it uses the word poneros
yeah,
for the
evil eye.
right, right. Is bad, is evil, is bad. But I think contextually, they were being envious of the people who received the same pay for less work.
Back to
So
the King James Version.
yeah,
Is it not lawful for me to do what I will with mine own? Is thine eye evil because I am good? So yes, thank you for pointing out. It is ophthalmos, where we get ophthalmology from.
yeah.
Ophthalmos. So
Yeah,
um,
there's a difference between optometry and ophthalmology.
yeah, yeah. There, I mean, there is. I don't know the difference, but optometry versus ophthalmology. Yeah.
Well, metry. So metry would be probably to do with the shape of the eye, where ology would be more the function of the eye.
Oh, maybe I could just
I'm
go to.
sorry, I meant ophthalmology.
Mm-hmm.
And one is a doctor who actually goes in and does surgery on it, and the other one is just the examination.
Measurement of the range of vision, measurement of the visual powers in general, optometry. Metry being measurement, and opto for sight, and then
Right.
ophthalmology, or there's a ph there. Yeah, no big
Yeah,
surprise
because
there.
F's were just too hard for that word.
The medicals, the medic. It's because the Greek and
Yeah, I know.
the letter phi or phi whatever. Uh, right? Am I messing up there? I think that's right. Off this letter. Not not what that letter is. So anyway, I'm getting distracted. The medical science of the eye and its function and diseases, ophthalmo and logy. Interesting. Good to know the difference. Really important. I'm kidding. Um, no, thank you, Fair, for pointing out. Thank you for pointing out the I reference here. I remember that because I read the whole Bible in KJV. I read the whole Bible in the Amplified. I read the whole Bible in the NASB. I read the whole Bible in a chronological NIV. What else did I do? I've definitely all for all intents and purposes, I've read the whole Berean, which is definitely my preferred. Although, I mean, there's lots of examples where the KJV is really helpful. Um, I'm a little surprised that the NASB. Um, I mean, the NASB says "I" here, though. Is your eye envious? So that the NASB is typically pretty close to the KJV. Pretty close. Um, so this is one of those tricky. Speaking of Bible translations, this is one of those tricky things where the translation. Whoa,
Sorry, dog wanted in and somebody's mowing.
it's fine. Um, it's one of those tricky situations where the Bible translation isn't wrong. It's conveying the truth, but it's still missing something in regards to um, helping the reader have a greater contextual understanding of this concept. But as a result of changing I evil to jealous, I don't think that it's a bad translation, but I think it would be wise if you're doing this sort of thing to maybe include a bracket or a parentheses that says something about the eye, so that when you're on these other verses, like in uh, wherever we were, I know it's like in Luke, and it was also wherever.
Yeah, it was Luke and Matthew, and yeah, but I mean the whole thing is like there's definitely a contextual difference between the eye as evil and jealousy.
Well, in as much as the significance behind this organ that we think of that's only used for sight. So I guess my
Yeah, it seems to convey the eye is also an outlet for emotion, or the inner thoughts or
yeah,
desires.
yeah, exactly. Um, and I think that is definitely lost or missed with certain translations, which is a shame. Um,
And that may be why it says, the eye is the light. And if there's light in your eyes, then your insides are conveying good instead of uh, shadow or evilness.
yeah, and this is interesting in that a lot of us have the experience where we this has been discussed who knows how many times, where you look into someone's eyes and you can see their sincerity, you can see their genuineness. um, the eyes the eyes are a fascinating organ. They aren't just for seeing. That much seems to be pretty clear both biblically and anecdotally. So yeah, interesting. Is the Septuagint here? I have another anyway, that's not really important. All right, good stuff. What am I doing? Just kidding. The originally my original goal was to demonstrate the no shadow, the no darkness in God as it relates to the constant. Here, let's look this word up. Let's look this word up. This word is dialectic. Dialectic. Relating to the art of reasoning about probabilities. About probabilities. Interesting. Which, has its root in dialect, but it's a little different. Wonder what that IC dialecticos of conversation discourse. I mean, this is specifically, why am I looking this word up, as it pertains to the Hegelian dialectic. But supposedly, here, I'm going to share a link in the chat. This is a video I was watching this morning. Post it there. Sorry, D Live, you just miss out on links. It's just how it is. Nobody's watching on D Live anyway, I don't think.
Just me, just me, just
Oh,
me.
well, there you go. Okay.
I like to give you at least one viewer on the odd channel.
All right. So, truth is stranger than fiction is the reference here, and the title of his video is superposition, unconditional love, and the duality of non-duality. Now, this was not his quote. He's quoting someone else. And then, of course, scrutinizing this claim, the duality of non-duality. In this video, it was really good. He has a clip of Ravi Zacharias talking about Western versus Eastern philosophy, and there's some really clever and interesting things that he shares, and then that the video addresses. Please watch it. Whoever watches this, watch that, because he's a better communicator than I am most of the time.
Yeah, I think I have this one. I have this one in my queue from earlier. I was watching a bunch of videos.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've been continuing to make my way through his videos. Some I watch more than once, and I'd like to have a lot of these topics down pat and be able to quote unquote spontaneously provide evidence to support what I know in generalities. I want to be able to have some of the specifics on hand for when I'm discussing these issues with random people, because that happens. So the joke that Ravi Zacharias told, I'll spoil a little bit of a spoiler, but not enough to dissuade anybody from watching the video, was regardless of the acceptance of duality or non-duality in Eastern philosophy, whereas they allegedly hold paradoxes, right? They reconcile paradoxes, the Hegelian dialectic, no, sorry, the Hermetic principles that we've been talking about, where
Right.
A and is equal to not A, and all of that is perfectly acceptable in the Eastern ideology and stuff. All right. The joke that Ravi Zacharias tells in regards to that is it's not true. He said, when an Indian, and Ravi Zacharias being a man from originally from India, I guess, or at least that's where his family's from, said, when an Indian is on the street, on the sidewalk, getting ready to cross the road, there's no non-duality between him and the bus. It's either the bus or him, not and. So he tells the joke way better than I could. He laughs. Everybody laughs. It's a good time. But it's a really important thing to realize, which takes me back to some of the things I read from Aristotle. There are certain non-negotiable realities, except for the clinically insane, if we're going to call them that. There are certain aspects of reality. No man, knowing that the town is left of his front door, wanting to go to the town, walks the opposite direction, because to do so would make no sense, and people do the things that make the most sense to them most of the time. That seems to be
Right.
I laugh and think of it and second guess myself in our modern era, where every now and then it seems like people really are doing the opposite of what they even know to be the rational thing to do. But anyway, the,
Well, when you bring some like something like that up, then we need to go back to like Paul and what Romans 8, whenever he was discussing the duality of man or even himself.
You
when he
talking
was
about
saying, you know,
I don't do what I don't want to do, but that whole thing?
absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's relevant. Here's the distinction though in regards to that. I think that the important distinction, where in the world? These acronyms. Oh, I have to go to this. That's how it is. I really like this website, but after years of using it, I still am trying to figure out how to use it. It gets confusing. All right, here's what I was going to say about Paul here. What he doesn't do is he doesn't make the claim that right and wrong are merely the same thing somehow. He does absolutely distinguish from right and wrong. He doesn't act like they're one and the same.
Yes, I agree with that. Yes.
But in regards to doing the things that you don't want to do would maybe only be a disputation or maybe even a refutation of the Aristotle claim that no man walks out of their house knowing that town is left and goes right. I don't know that it would necessarily refute that, because this is in regards to sin, which is not philosophical, it's more pragmatic. Trying to think how to connect the two, or not. A lot of people, I don't know who necessarily, all right, where are is in the first section? You said 8,
Say
didn't you?
what?
You said Romans 8 or no? I miss
I
you.
think it's Romans 8. I may be cutting in and out. I'm having a drive. Sorry, guys.
That's okay. I'll find it though. Do what I don't want.
Well, I mean, you got 8 verse 5.
Oh,
That's doing things according to the flesh,
it's 7.
right?
It's Romans chapter 7. It's all good.
Is it 7?
Yeah,
We're one off.
yeah, it's all good. Here, I'll just scoot this up. We don't need to see the time anyway. All right. I'll start with verse 12 here. So then the law is holy and the commandment is holy, righteous and good. Did that which is good then become death to me? Certainly not. But in order that sin might be exposed as sin, it produced death in me through what was good, so that through the commandment sin might become utterly sinful. We know that the law is spiritual, but I am unspiritual, sold as a slave to sin. I do not understand what I do, for what I want to do, I do not do, but what I hate to, I do. And if I do what I do not want to do, I admit that the law is good. In that case, it is no longer I who do it, but it is sin living in me that does it. I know that nothing good lives in me, that is, in my flesh, for I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. For I do not do the good I want to do. Instead, I keep on doing the evil I do not want to do. And if I do what I do not want, it is no longer I who do it, but it is sin living in me that does it. So this is the principle I've discovered: when I want to do good, evil is right there with me. For in my inner being, I delight in God's law. But I see another law at work in my body, warring against the law of my mind and holding me captive to the law of sin that dwells within me. What a wretched man I am! Who will rescue me from this body of death? Thanks be to God through Jesus Christ our Lord. So then, with my mind, I serve the law of God. With my flesh, I serve the law of sin. Be literally captive to the law of sin by being in my members. Where was A?
So it uses the word melicin for members.
Verse 23.
Yeah, verse 23.
Okay, and that is notable.
Oh, it's just confusing in the context, right? Why they wouldn't use body instead of member, right? Because members is like a piece of the body or pieces of the body, as opposed to the whole thing. So it was just confusing to me.
Yep. So the Holman Christian Standard Bible does use parts of my body. The KJV and NASB both say in my members.
Right.
Um, in the
Yeah,
part.
Dewey Rames uses in my members as well.
Another member. Neither yield you your members as instruments of unrighteousness. So in Romans 6, he addresses this.
Oh, hold on, I got to mute. I got someone at the door.
Yep.
I'll be right back.
Alrighty.
Move, dog.
There we go. Dead to sin, alive to God. Interesting stuff. Well, I did share the verses so far directly related to there not being any darkness in God. In him is light. Of course, we can go to um, the book of John. We can do that. I'll do that right now.
All right, I made it back. It was a telemarketer or something. Those people that come and try and sell you things.
Oh, I love it. Love it. And now we can go to Jesus. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made, and without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. And then, of course, it keeps on talking about the light. So there's this true light that we have in God, in which is full of only light and has no darkness at all. And then there's this other false light of Lucifer, or the second beast or whatever. I say or whatever because there's an element of mystery and or confusion to the nature and existence of the enemies of God, the beasts, the first and second beast, the Antichrist, plural and singular, if it even can be singular. That's why I say what I say when I say or whatever. I'm not literally saying or whatever. I'm just saying something along the lines of basically. But that false light is full of darkness, deception, not good stuff. And yeah, it's
Well, I would imagine that since the deceiver, right, the one we call the deceiver,
yeah,
would cast a light that would be deceptive, right? Because he has no real power other than fooling you into making decisions and choices, right, that are not in your best interest and not for the glory of God. So as the deceiver, I could see that false light would be used to trick and deceive to bring you away from the true light. So it makes sense that the deceiver would have that ability or use that.
yeah. Man, Isaiah's got a bunch. We were talking about Isaiah at the very beginning with the whole sun going backwards thing, and then was talking about the moon being as bright as the sun. In Isaiah 30, that's interesting because just think, okay, consider this right now for anybody that's a heliocentric minded person, okay, because I know that there are those of you out there. I want you to take into consideration what they say the sun and the moon are and what God says the sun and the moon are. Now, God does absolutely say in Genesis that there's a greater light and a lesser light. Okay? But how do you think it makes any sense at all that the light of the moon would be equal to the sun if the moon is merely reflecting the light from the sun? Now, I'm not trying to say that the moon is not reflecting the light from the sun necessarily, but there might be more to it, and Isaiah chapter 30 certainly points to there being more to it. That's my point. So it's interesting. There you go. The light of the moon will be as bright as the sun, and the light of the sun will be, so, I guess it says and the sunlight will be 7 times brighter, like the light of 7 full days. Whoa.
Yeah, this Isaiah's end times prophecies are the literal gravy.
Yeah, Isaiah's not where the mountains are melting like wax, because
No, yeah, that's Isaiah as well. I actually have my notes from Isaiah sitting in front of me, which is funny.
oh
So
my
so
gosh.
chapter 2, verse 2, and the last days the mountains of the house of the Lord shall be. Oh, and that's the mountains of the Lord. So that may not be the right one.
Oh, okay. It's in
Yeah,
there.
that's mountains of the Lord. It's in there.
Isaiah 60, the sun will be no more, or the sun will no more be your light by day, nor will the brightness of the moon shine on you. for the Lord will be your everlasting light and your God. That's some important stuff to understanding creation and how creation worked with the sun and moon not being created until day 4. That's some important stuff.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yep.
So false light. I'm trying to find false messiahs and false prophets will appear. False Christ, false messiahs, both in Mark and Matthew. Whoever follows me, specifically Jesus, will never walk in darkness, but will have the light. Let light shine out of darkness. Made his light shine in our hearts to give us the light of the knowledge of God's glory. 2 Corinthians, that's good stuff. Trying to find some false. Isaiah is probably another one of the books that discusses the false light. Let's see here.
So let's see. Found a couple references.
I don't know why false light wouldn't bring it up. It's kind of weird. "377 verses with the word false in it. Is there a different
So
phrase for? Go ahead.
Second Corinthians 11:13 through 14. Says, "For such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Christ. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light." So that's a description in Corinthians of Satan as the false light, right?
For Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. Yes.
Right.
Angel of light. Let me look that up. That might be a good keyword reference. Angel of light. So definitely 2 Corinthians. Revelation. No. Maybe. This is, I guess, an interesting verse, though. Revelation 8. Then the fourth angel sounded his trumpet, and a third of the sun and moon and stars were struck. I mean, this is a throwback to the other third of the angels. A third of the stars were darkened. A third of the day was without light, and a third of the night as well. And then you have this wormwood thing. Third of the moon, third of the sun, third of the stars. Interesting. So let me see if I can do angel light in quotes. Whoops. Only one? That doesn't make any sense.
You keep coming back to the Corinthians one, right?
Yeah, it's not the only time that phrase shows up. Now, Galatians 1, but even if we or an angel from heaven should preach a gospel contrary, which, by the way, Mormons, bro, did you guys you guys skip Galatians? Is this in the book? Is this in the
I don't think it's in their. I don't think it's in their real Bible. I don't know. Where's my copy of the Lamplight? I'll have to look.
Mormon? Do you have a Mormon Bible, really?
Yeah, I've got the Lamplight somewhere around the house. They drop them off from time to time. I just never know where I stuffed that thing.
I thought the Book of Mormon was, oh my gosh, service is
Well, the
unavailable.
Lamplight, yeah, the Lamplight, I think is their paraphrased version. I don't know.
Gotcha.
I'm not planning on being Mormon anytime soon, so.
Yeah. I want to see Galatians Chapter 1. All right. I'm just curious. I'm just curious here. So we're gonna see. Where was it? Oh yeah, Galatians 1:8. Here's the book. Here's the Mormon's version of this verse. But though we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed. It's pretty verbatim.
Yeah.
They just don't care. That's cool.
Well, and without their study Bible to tell you what they mean by that verse, you would never know, right?
Oh yeah. I guess you can
Right, because they might choose any other gospel as their gospel, not necessarily the Bible. I mean, it does have a footnote there, right?
Yep, I'm clicking on it. As I besought thee to abide still at Ephesus, that thou mightest charge them that they teach no other doctrine. Um, uh, angel from heaven, cursed. Now I get what you're saying, and I know that they have a companion. Island News and Reviews has joined us in the chat. Welcome. It seems like your name is familiar, but I don't know 100% if you've been here before or not. Your name seems familiar. Um, he said study Bibles and accordances are
I
often,
think he means concordance, the concordances.
concordances
Yeah.
are often something abominations.
Well, they're just one person's interpretation of how the Gospels fit together and how the Bible verses fit together.
Yeah.
That's why whenever you go to read the Bible, you pray for understanding, right? And then
Yes.
you do your own research.
Yeah. Island one and
But
all.
they're
Yeah. Well, concordance. It's fine. Island. Welcome.
yeah, no, I was just being pedantic, sorry.
Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the stream. Island. If you ever want to join the Discord, you can do so. I try to have a link. I don't know where the link is. Do you know how to make a link, Shadow Mind?
For Discord,
Yeah.
hold on, let me get it pulled up. I have the what did I do? Where's my things?
I'll just do
Uh,
this. I've got it.
here,
Island. You can
like
use
people.
you can use this. It's a 7-day. It's a 7-day link. It'll expire in 7 days. So no
Yeah,
harm.
that's exactly what I was just getting ready to do the exact same thing.
No harm. Sometimes I make infinite links. Um, but whatever. Um, for our struggles not against flesh and blood. Yes. Very important. Ephesians 6 is so super important. I think that my next sermon is going to be exclusively on the armor of God. Um, did I say that I've done two sermons now?
No, you've hinted, but you haven't actually declared. So.
Yeah. So my first sermon was on the topic of what we can know, and that we can know things, and basically an overview of the truths of God, who He is, and it's a pretty good sermon. Uh, it was better than the mock sermon I did in college, much better. Now on that one, I did a mock sermon in college, on the topic of 1 Corinthians chapter 13 on what is love.
Yeah, Ephesians is super important for spiritual protection against the realm of evil.
Yes.
Super
And
important.
anyway, then the most recent sermon that I did a couple of weeks ago was sharing the gospel and how to do so in the easiest or most simplistic way. The necessary constituent parts to sharing the gospel. Um, I I mean, obviously, it's the most important topic, um, which might influence the fact of how critical I will be against myself when evaluating how effective I was at accomplishing literally the most important sermon any person could ever preach. But with that said, I wish I had done better.
Yeah, but I mean that's the way you improve though.
Yeah,
Nobody's perfect overnight. So
yeah,
I think that's why a lot of new ministers and new preachers tend to record themselves these days, so they can go back and they can
for sure.
watch and critique, right? Because the literal eye of the recorder captures a lot of your weirdness when you get up there and do things. I'm going to use the word weirdness because it just fits. So.
Are you Island Bear? That from like 5 years ago or four? You said that I'm in your unbearable Discord. I think I hopped out of some of those Discords because, um,
Is that Bear Isle? Is that who that is?
if it is, then I know who you are and what's up. If it's not, what's up anyway? But a lot of the bear people, like, they don't like me. I mean, not all, obviously, but I don't know. Like, I got kicked out of one of those bear Discords. Um, I'm Island the OG. Yeah, you're the guy I
Yeah,
know. I remember you. What's up, man? Um, the OG. But yeah, the one that you were in, Shadow, and
I'm still in it. I'm
but
still in Bear Island.
Platypus and I came there a couple of times. We hung out, and then um, one day, I guess they just purged a bunch of people, and I was like, "All righty then, appreciate you."
Yeah, I think there was a lot of stagnant users at one time, but that's been at least a year or two since
Sure,
since the big purge.
it's
So
been
yeah.
a while. I don't. It's not a big deal. Um,
I mean, usually we just deride people until they leave on their own. Seems to be our way.
I hear you on that. All right, giving thanks to the Father who has qualified you to share in the inheritance of the saints in the light. In the light. Back to the light. Um, he rescued us from the dominion of darkness and brought us into the kingdom of his beloved Son. Um, I'm surprised there's not more cross-reference verses to. I mean, Satan gets a lot of airtime for as little as he shows up in the Bible.
Right. Well, and it's what there's three angels that are technically talked about in the Bible. You have Gabriel and Michael and the devil and Satan slash Lucifer, and
Hmm.
those are the three. Those are the three main. Well, in the main Bible, not counting the Apocrypha or any of that other stuff, as we've
Hmm.
discussed before. So
Yes, which
in the approved books, in the Jesus approved books.
Yeah. Which one of those in particular is very exhaustive and talks about all sorts of different of angels. So, all right. Well, the eye. I titled this sermon. I titled this stream, "There's no darkness in him," and little did I know that the feature concept of this would be the eye and its relevance to our life. And this points back to why I want to break down practically Ephesians chapter 6 in the armor of God, because I think it's super important. Right? I want people to know verse 14 here. I want people to know as much as possible what it looks like to have the belt of truth buckled around your waist. And like each one of these, I think, is a sermon. Like 20 to 30 minutes for each one of these. Stand firm then with the belt of truth buckled around your waist. So this highly interests me because we read these words like we did tonight on the topic of the eye, and then you ask the question, what does this mean? How can I practically apply this knowledge to my life, and how can I make sure that my eye is good? And we looked at verses, and we found examples. A good eye is correlated with generosity, and a bad eye is correlated with jealousy. So there's that.
Right.
Um, and that's a start. It might not be the whole big picture, but I think it is a start. It at least points you in the right direction as far as how to shine your light, how to shine the light in your whole body and your whole life. But then you look at the armor of God, and think, man, belt of truth buckled around your waist. And you know what I thought when I was thinking about these verses? I think about things. I was thinking, if you don't have a belt, I feel like bad things might happen. You might
Right.
be exposed.
Yeah, your nakedness is exposed.
Yeah.
The
So
the belt keeps your trousers up.
exactly. So so it stands to reason that those who don't secure themselves with truth, who cozy themselves up to lies, will be made obvious as indignified liars that they are.
Right. Well, and look at the verbiage of the verse too. It says stand firm, right? And to stand firm is to be like upright, resistant, right? So the opposite of that would be infirm, right? So without the belt of truth, you are infirm or weak or unprepared
Or laying
or
down
soft or laying down, right?
with
Right.
your
And
legs wide open, even, maybe. I don't
yeah,
know.
and the first verse says it all. If you don't take up the full armor of God, you have no protection.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
unable to stand.
Nakedness is associated with shame. So if you don't have truth, hiding back, holding up your garments, then your shame is going to be exposed. And the Bible talks a lot about nakedness and shame.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, it's the devil likes to reiterate your sin and sin is the basis for your shame. So
Yeah, this is why I continually pound it in my children's head, the significance and necessity of truthfulness for the sake of their lives, for the sake of their hearts, for the sake of their minds, their integrity, like everything. Truth, truth, truth. Nothing's more important. And
Absolutely, because when you get exposed in your lies, you definitely do feel shame. If you don't have, I mean, if you're not sharing truth and you're telling your parents a lie and then they find out, then the child definitely experiences shame.
mhm, yeah, for sure. So,
well, hopefully there's enough light in them to where they do feel shame.
Lord
So
willing,
there's
yeah.
always those, there's always those kids. So I make no claims. I'm just saying those kids exist.
I've known some of them, sadly.
Yeah, I grew up with some of them as well.
I would say that they're rare, but I have known a few that seem to be all the way. Well, anyway, I think that about does it for this week. I didn't quite know. I'm typically pulling ideas out for topics based on what's been going on over the past few days, and I don't want to bore people with etymology fallacies and anachronistic or character or category error fallacies, and like constantly having these sorts of conversations. I want to do my best to apply, um, well, biblical principles and stuff. So um, I can tie in all sorts of things, just like the Isaiah stuff with the two different references from the book of Isaiah that I really wasn't super aware of beforehand. The sun going retro, or whatever you want to call it. Is it appropriate to call it retrograde? I think it's appropriate.
Yeah, because it would be the reverse
Yeah, and then
orbit. No, orbit's wrong. The reverse direction.
yeah, I think orbit is still. I still use that phrase or word, but and the other one, the moon becoming as bright as the sun. That is a bit okay. On one hand, I get it. You've got your helio. Well, welcome. Um, the number pops up to 6 viewers right as I'm wrapping
Nice.
things up. Love it. All right, so check this out though. You got the heliocentric model, and you got Bible believers. They can always pull the God card and just be like, yeah, well, God can do anything, and
Right.
they're not wrong. You're right. God can violate the laws of nature, and your belief about the moon reflecting the sun's light could be violated by God because God is God. I get it. I'm okay with that. I just think it's inconsistent
Well,
because
and the way I look at it is which model, right, gives glory to God and which model gives glory to man.
hmm, does the how let me ask you this. How does the heliocentric model give glory to man?
Because it was an invention of man. Like the Bible or the Torah or the original Septuagint
Yeah,
clearly lays out the creation story, right? And
sure.
all of its glory, right? Which is ratified once again in John, right?
Yeah.
So you have ancient text written over thousands of years ago that clearly lays out what God's plans were for the creation of our realm. And then in the 14th, 15th century, man decides that's not good enough and creates the heliocentric model, not for the glory of God, but to separate man from his creator.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I think
Yeah.
that heliocentric loyalist would be like, well, we discovered it, we didn't invent it, but you're not wrong. So, um,
Well, they discovered that Mars didn't do what they thought it did, and then they invented something around it. So,
sure, yeah.
but
Yeehaw.
I know, right? Such semantics.
Mm. Which isn't a dirty word, by the way, and neither is religion. And I'm going to keep on beating that dead horse too. And every time people are like, "Oh, I hate religion," blah blah blah, I pull out. I'm like, "All right, there's this guy named James, except it wasn't actually his name, but that's besides the point. Um, his name was Jacob or Yaakov, but I don't really know how Jacob became James. There's a lot of weird name switching up in the English translation. It's kind of weird. But anyway, perfect religion, James like 1:17 or something like that. Let's see if I can find it. I think it's verse 17. Nope. Yep. Nope. Yep. No, it's not 17. Where is it? Let's see. Religion. Whoops. 27. It's just 10 off. There was a 7 in there, though. I tell you what.
That's what I call a give or take. That's a give or take 10.
Yeah. I went a little Norm Macdonald there. Pure and undefiled religion before our God and Father is this: to care for orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world. You know, every time I hear some silly person trashing on the concept of religion, I go, "Oh, well, that's because you don't know pure religion, undefiled religion. That's because you're just griping about what we already know to be the fact is that religion is defiled. I don't like it either, but I like this. So yeah, there you go. And what do you
Yeah, that
know?
verse
Go ahead.
that verse 26 is every preacher on TV between 1975 and 1995.
Yeah, there's different ways to consider what bridling your tongue is. Um, I have been practicing the bridling of my tongue for 23 years, at least as far as I understand it. But on the other hand, I don't beat my chest because I'm certain that I've said things. I'm certain that I've done this, the opposite of this, rather. I've been quick to anger before, more than once.
Oh yeah.
So, but in regards to my speech and purposely avoiding curses, now in general, I avoid crass language and cuss words, but I very, very carefully for 23 years have I pause because I'm like sitting here like even in private in my heart, which heart, tongue, tomato, I don't know. But yeah, it's not in my heart to curse people. Like blank you is what I mean by that. Like curse.
Right.
Curse. I know you've heard me talk about this before, but like when somebody says he was a blankety blank blank, I'm like, okay, cool. You're just using special words, making yourself feel good, whatever. I don't really think, it's whatever to me. But when somebody says blank you, I don't respect that in the slightest. I don't respect that. I think that there's a problem there. And it doesn't have to be the F word. It could be other words. It's blank. It's the heart of blank you, whatever the blank you is. So anyway, I think I already said wrapping this thing up. Thanks, Fear. Thanks, Shadow, for joining.
Anytime.
And we'll see what pops up throughout the week for next week. Hopefully, my heart is always that it'll be edifying and beneficial somehow, some way.
Blessings, y'all. It's been a pleasure visiting with you.
Yeah, absolutely, Fear.
God's peace to you all.